So we're going to start the regular meeting. As a courtesy to others, please silence your cell phones during the meeting and engage in conversations outside the chambers. The city clerk has an announcement.
If you are here to speak under public comments or on an item on the agenda, please fill out a request to speak form. It's a blue card in the back of the room, and turn it in to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. Fire Chief French leads us. So now it's time for council disclosures and reports.
Roll? Oh, we did. We did.
No, we do need to take roll.
Councilmember West.
Here.
Councilmember Spriggs.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Patton.
Here.
Councilmember Aguirre and Mayor Dedina are absent.
So now it's time for disclosures. We'll start with Councilmember West.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. It's been a busy couple weeks. I think the most important thing that I want to talk about is really the San Diego Chamber mission to DC, which was just wrapped up. And as your appointed member to the Airport Authority, it was went from focused on really advocating to Washington, DC, how the Terminal 1 expansion is so important and how this is a significant step forward for our community. But I want you to know something, that it was really evident to me and very, very exciting that every member that we were in, almost every meeting, people were talking about the Tijuana River and fixing this. And it was very, very prevalent at all once. In fact, Congressman Levin spoke at length about it, Congressman Vargas, and Congressman Peter did it. And they were all talking about making sure that the funding for the Border Water Infrastructure Program was actually held at $15 million for this year and increasing as we move forward. So I was really happy to see that. In fact, it was so prevalent that even a Representative Aguilar from California District 31, who is on the Appropriations Committee, came out and actually said, hey, we know that the Tijuana River Valley needs upwards of $330 million for this. So it was a very, very great topic of information, and it just showed me that they're engaged and they're working on it. And then I know the mayor will brief, when he gets back, he wants to talk to you about his meeting that he actually had with the White House staff, which all the members of our area, including the mayor of Coronado, the mayor of Chula Vista, the mayor of San Diego, port commissioners, all were in. And he felt very happy that the meeting happened, and it seemed like a really well choreographed and attended group. So some of the other things that we talked about homelessness. And I know that a lot of us have seen some homelessness starting to increase in our own community, and they talked about how does a small city, I asked a pointed question about how does a small city who doesn't have any services work to really improve homelessness in our community. So I know that city manager Hall and I have worked on some ideas and some thought processes. It was led by Mr. Rick Gentry, and those of us who are in the housing community for San Diego know his work has been really, really well done throughout our community. So there are also some discussions about how do we solve the housing crisis here in San Diego. And then what I was really happy to see is that the coordination between the mayor, Councilmember Aguirre, and myself were able to, when a couple of us needed to be in one meeting, we were able to say, hey, you go and take this meeting. And so we are always advocating for the things of Imperial Beach. So it was really neat. And then on September 22nd, I represented the city for the Third Fleet Change of Command ceremony, which is held on USS Theodore Roosevelt. Brought back some memories because I served on the Roosevelt when I was an enlisted guy, so it was really nice to see. But ship looks like it's in great shape, and the crew was really excited, and it was a great event. I think our Third Fleet is in great hands, let's put it that way. And then on October 1st, I think a really amazing thing happened. You know, our federal government has not taken the step to really fund anything for our Tijuana River Valley. So it was great to see Senator Hueso's bill get signed into law on October 1st by our governor, $15 million. Now, $15 million doesn't solve anything, but if it's pinpointed in the right direction, it can address one of the Goat Canyons, or it can address one of the Yogurt Canyons. So it was a really good. I applaud Senator Waso because he has, in the absence of leadership, stepped up to the plate. When one California senator can give $15 million for one particular project, it's great. And then one couple things for upcoming on October 5th. So it's the 10th annual, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of TRAM. It's the Tijuana River Action Month. It's our 10th annual year of doing this. It's the Surf Rider, I Love a Clean San Diego, Wild Coast collaboration. And they're going to be doing on Monument Mesa, they're doing a habitat restoration. And then Wild Coast is doing a cleanup on the south end of Seacoast. This is all their 10th anniversary, and they're having a big party afterwards at Borderfield State Park in Imperial Beach that starts at 12. So we have a lot of freebies and stuff to give away. And then October 12th, unfortunately, because of our sewage issue, the postponement of our Dempsey Holder had to be done, and so it'll be held October 12th now. October 12th for Dempsey Holder. Yep. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Sprigg?
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Excuse my voice. I think I'm coming down with a sore throat or something. My report is on the two items that I'm assigned to. One is the League of California Cities, where I'm chair of the 61 coastal cities of California. And I just led a conference call last week where we've set the final agenda for our annual meeting, which is coming up on the 17th during the League of California Cities annual conference. So the 61 cities will be getting together, and our principal focus is going to be the follow-up from our workshop with the Coastal Commission back in July. And at this annual meeting, we're going to focus on both the policy and the legal issues surrounding some of the Coastal Commission's strategies and tactics that all the coastal cities have to deal with these days. Specifically, we're going to have two legal experts, coastal legal experts, present as well to give us some guidance for the very first time ever that we will have brought legal experts into the coastal cities annual meeting. The two things we're going to be working on are is the Coastal Commission interface with the cities when it comes to sea level rise, and especially their doctrine of managed retreat. And I call it a doctrine because it's not really a strategy. It's not really an alternative to other adaptation approaches yet, because there's no real feasibility established for it. And all the cities are struggling with this doctrinal application in their LCPs that's being required. Imperial Beach has been going back and forth on this issue, others before us and others coming forward after us with their LCPs. And the goal is to try to come up with some strategies to convince the commission that all the cities want the same things that they want, but the doctrine shouldn't be applied to every city and every portion of every city. It ought to be on a case-by-case basis where data and realities require it. So that'll be one thing. The other key issue will be a very similar approach, but with less consequence for us in Imperial Beach, which is the Coastal Commission's approach to short-term rentals, where they've required additional short-term rental provision in coastal cities that come before them for approval of their local coastal programs. This is another local land use issue that is constitutionally delegated to your city councils all over the state and the county governments. So it's another area where it shouldn't be necessarily applied to every city. And we have an approach on that as well to try to reach some accommodation, which is the city is already haggled within the community to develop an ordinance that allows vacation rentals in the coastal zone. Let it be. How about that? The city's already gone through the exercise, already allowing it. Why require more? Or why require the city change its ordinance? So we're going to be working with the commission on at least that piece of it, and then there are other circumstances, of course, where there needs to be some resolution of these constantly conflicting relationships between the Coastal Commission and the cities. So that'll be in 2 weeks. Tomorrow, I will be representing the city at the Metro Wastewater JPA, and it's going to be an important meeting because we will be approving the cost allocations between all the participating agencies based on the 2017 audit. And Imperial Beach, I think, has come out pretty well. We will probably have to pay about $7,000 of additional funds to what we were originally budgeted for, but that's a small amount compared to what some cities will have to pay in addition to what they've already been allocated. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spriggs. And for me, I almost volunteered at a surf contest that was canceled. I almost worked with a Kiwanis Club at a ocean discovery. It was canceled due to the water. It's kind of upsetting. But for sure, October 5th, IBAC is having an overline tournament, and it's all day right at IB Boulevard. You can come down and see some good overline, good family-friendly event. Also on October 5th, Symphony by the Sea at 6 o'clock at Pier Plaza. And tonight's agenda is full of announcements. So we're going to start off with our announcements with Fire Chief French.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, just want to give a quick update or just a quick announcement. October 12th is going to be our fire department open house. So I just wanted to remind everybody about that. It's from 11 to 3 in the parking lot, and the parking lot will be full of fire trucks, sheriff's department, lifeguards, and a bunch of outside organizations and groups that are in the community and outside the community that can help our citizens and things like that. So just wanted to give a reminder of that. Fire Prevention Week is next week, and our fire department is going to be out at all the second grade classrooms in the elementary schools talking fire prevention. And today they were at the library, Fire Hero Story Time. So we're out in the community, and hope everybody can make it to the open house.
Thank you. Thanks for what you do. Next up, we'd like to get City Manager Douche for another announcement.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council members, maybe I have what Council Member Spriggs is getting. Perhaps. I just wanted to let you all know, you should have received an email from Jin Nakagawa about the final draft of our LCP, the implementation plan and the general plan. And so we'll be reviewing that. And as Council Member Spriggs had indicated, continue to work with the coastal staff, and we'll continue to receive feedback from the community. We'll be establishing a schedule to take it to our boards and commissions, and then to the council. Those dates have not yet been set, but if anybody has any questions about that, those documents are online. And as always, we're happy to help, happy to meet with folks about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Douche. And bringing us home with announcements is going to be City Manager Hall.
Well, okay. I got challenged to see if I could talk longer than Mark Weston. I'm not sure, but we'll see what we can do. First, you see the ribbons up here. We want to make sure that everyone understands that we very much support Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we appreciate our staff members who brought those in and make us look good. But we really do support everyone who's going through that terrible, terrible thing right now. We wanted to announce a couple of things. One is that the meeting, due to lack of quorum on October 16th, will not be held. The city council meeting will not be held, but we are having a coffee with the city manager at 6 o'clock p.m. Right now that's listed for the Dempsey Center, but watch if you can the announcements that come out. We're going to try to hold that at Oneonta School if we can. We want to get in different parts of the community, and we're going to see if we can't get out to Oneonta School and make sure we give everyone a chance to ask their questions about what's going on in the community. We'll have some items that we want to share, so we look forward to that. There's a couple of announcements on tonight's meeting. Oh, one other announcement for the future, the November City Council meetings. So on November 6th and November 20th, we are going to be installing some new equipment in this room in that coming month. So the council meetings will be held in the library, which is directly north across the street. So just wanted to let everybody know that the next two council meetings in November 6th and November 20th will be held in the library. There are some items that we need to address on tonight's agenda. Item 2.5 has a typographical error that we just want to correct in the resolution and on the agenda, and that's that the resolution number should be 2019-8092. It was just a numbering error, and we want to make sure, just for clarification, that that's 8092. And then item 2.6, it's 2019-8091. So we just want to make sure that we got those numberings on those correct, so that people can find those in the future if they need to. Due to a briefing with Councilman Spriggs last night, we would ask that item 2.4 from the consent agenda be removed from consent and placed right at the end of consent agenda to talk a little bit about the lease with the termination of the lease with the Sweetwater Unified High School District. There has also been a request by Councilmember Aguirre to remove from the agenda the travel that she was previously scheduled to take to Jackson, Wyoming. She has asked to take that off the agenda. She no longer plans to attend that conference. And then, because some council members have asked for additional information, and because it's an item that should probably be addressed with a full council, we would like to continue item 3.3, which is the tobacco use in the community, to the November 20th meeting, which again will be held in the library. So, sorry, that was a lot of change. How'd I do?
Good.
It might have been longer than Councilman West, right? That was pretty close. The best I could. Probably not. So, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. So I'd like to entertain a motion to remove item 2.4 from consent calendar for discussion at the end of consent calendar, and remove item 2.9 from the agenda. Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously by those present.
Okay, Madam Clerk, any additional speaker slips?
No, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, so first up, I'd like to call up Thomas Grimbaugh. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Good evening, everybody. I applied for a permit for just like a covered driveway in 2014. The city kept saying you're not qualified, we can't give you until late 2015. I didn't get the permit. My budget low, I was building for 3 years. And then with construction, everybody know changes occur. For example, the city of Imperial Beach, they constructed runabout. They spent a lot of money, they spent a lot of resources, city manager, engineer, planner, surveyor. The minute they install it, and it cost them a lot of money, they forgot something. What did they do? They yanked it completely out. So for this little Thomas permit to make changes, Mr. That should be accepted. The changes that I made, I had approval with it from the city of Imperial Beach. I came to the counter, I said, I need to do changes. And the changes were granted at the counter. Why should I suffer? Because the person who granted me the changes retired. Why should I suffer? I had to go start from all over. And imagine when I came to the city, they said they don't have any record for the 3 years I've been building, and my building went all the way to almost to the maximum height allowed within the city ordinance, the code. And they said, we don't have any signature. Imagine if my case went to the court and you sent your attorney try to tell the judge, Mr. Judge or whatever, we don't have any signature, we don't have any approval for 3 years. How could that happen? I have a lot of record with the inspector coming over and schedule and communication. and signature, who wiped the approval record. This is something that really, I urge you to look into it. If this is not corruption, what could be corruption? My entire approval record was removed out of the computer and they want me to start all over. This is corruption. And Mr. Paul, you are a great man. Please look into this matter. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Next up, I'd like to call Steve Berry.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Patton, Mr. Hall, and Councilman Weston Spriggs. I just have some curiosity going on here into our city. As you know, I served on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce for a few years prior to founding IBAC. And during my time as a board of director on Chamber of Commerce, the BID was dissolved. I have 2 storefronts. I go to get my business license, I'm paying for BID. And I find it odd that the city is still charging for the BID funds for my business license. It's been over 3 years since a BID has been dissolved. There's a lot of businesses in Imperial Beach that are paying the BID funds. There's no public information on where the BID funds, the amount of BID funds that have been stored, or the pool or the pocket of BID funds is. Now in 2007, I had a storefront on Seacoast. And on the Seacoast, prior to me moving in 2007, they spent BID funds on very expensive storefront signs. As you see on the ordinance from Imperial Beach, they want this 3D effect for signs. So they spend an ungodly amount of money, the city of Imperial Beach, on storefront signs, mainly to focus in on Seacoast and the look of the signs on Seacoast. All of that was done with BID funds. So personally, I haven't seen any money spent on anything east of Seacoast, or I would probably say east of 3rd, where that signage really was paid for back in 2007. So in my opinion, I think it needs to be public knowledge where the money is, where it's allocated to, what it's planned to be spent on, and why is it being held in a bucket. I don't think it's fair as a business owner to go and pay for my business license and be tacked on $120 for BID funds that does not exist. Okay, and that's really all I have to say. I thank all of you for the hard work that you do on our city. And if somebody could please contact me, I would love to talk about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hall will contact you.
Yeah, I'll contact, not only will I contact Steve, I think it's a really good point that we will bring back a staff report to the city council and give you an update, because that has been a very, not only contentious, but a very confusing issue. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. We do need to give everyone an update on that. So we'll do that at your next, it'll probably be on the 20th of November. We'll give you an update on that.
And all
I'll
of
call
us-
you before then, but we'll do that.
And all of us on the council have been asking those same questions.
Well, we've been asking, yeah. Gender, right?
Yep.
I could carry you along with that. We do need.
Good point. Paul Allen wants to donate time to his parents. So, Paul, parents? Yes, I did. Do you want to donate time to your parents, it says? No. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, no problem.
I don't get over here very often.
Oh, well,
Usually
welcome.
things don't really get me to the point where I want to come over here. My concern has to do, with Granny Flats. They really came out of the blue. Now you're wanting to build all of these things, and yet we have this funny little watch on TV all of the time saying from 4 to 9, we don't have the electricity. What are you doing about the electricity? What can be done about the electricity? It's all green, obviously, solar, windmill, and possibly turbine generators into the ocean. You need to fund for that. You can't keep building. You can't do it. You keep doing these, the county, the state keeps doing all of these grayouts. You need to put the horse in front of the cart. We also have a water problem. We've got a tide that's rising. Why not look into desalination? I know we can do the toilet to the tap. That doesn't sound real good. But it's really the way the ocean is going now. It doesn't sound like it really makes much difference. I would also like to know why you have decided to change IB Boulevard into a one lane. That's the emergency exit for Imperial Beach. You put, years ago, the forefathers, they put in 4 lanes, 2 each way for a reason. And then years ago, you started putting in flower pots. Now we got more flower pots. That's more maintenance, that's more water, and that's more cost. Imperial Beach does not have the money. Pretty much, that's about it. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Next up, I call up Eric Syverson.
I'm glad Mr. Allen brought that up. He's absolutely correct. I can trace the design of my neighborhood, Seaside Point, which originally would have been called Oneonta by the Sea, to 1886, pre-automobile. The intention of that neighborhood, absolutely beautiful, built much like the city itself, perfectly aligned on the north, south, east, west compass. Avenues, 100, 80, 60 feet wide, multimodal. 1886, multimodal. For automobile, multimodal. Wide avenues, 2 main wide avenues in 1886. Who would have imagined 2 main wide avenues? Now, granted, maybe they weren't aligned on Palm and IB Boulevard, but to say that the forefathers had it right is 100% correct. Because they knew the one thing that wide avenues provide is variability, adaptability, escapability, emergency planning, multimodal planning. Can't do that when it's clogged, can't do that when it's narrowed, full of islands, full of parked cars, 45 degrees in the center, full of directions, people don't know which way to go. You just can't do that. The place was designed with such beautiful intent. Absolute intent. That original design is still here. The railroad has not moved. The trolley runs next to it. The packing plant is still there. Nestor Methodist Church from 1897 is still there. Hollister Road is the path that Junipero Serra took in 1769 when he came through Goat Canyon, which you can obviously see right now that you have opened our avenue up from 3rd. It is the most beautiful view that we have had, and it is the view of my youth and the view the city is supposed to have. Wide open, unabated views, bay to border, ocean to Otay Mountain. That is the history of Imperial Beach. He said it right. I didn't intend to speak on this, but the forefathers were right. We're going to pay for that redesign on IB Boulevard, and we're going to pay a lot, and it's not going to be on cap numbers or greenhouse gas emission reductions or anything else. It's going to be travel, traffic, congestion, pedestrians hit, car accidents, and when the emergency comes, we'll have no way out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Syverson. Next up, I'd like to call Baron Partlope.
Chairman, distinguished members of the council, city staff, members of the audience. The narrow roads of Maryland were not just used as an offensive route for the Northern Army of Virginia. They were also used in pursuit of Robert E. Lee by the Army of the Potomac in a race to Washington, D.C. In a military town like this, in a military history, how can you choke a tsunami hazard zone escape route in any way, shape, or form and say that you have the public's interest at heart? Number two, the mayor goes to Washington, D.C., and I have spoken many times individually and collectively with each member of this council in this venue, from this podium, and others. I have assisted you as much as I could. I've been admonished. I've been silenced, or at least attempted to. We have over 2 billion gallons of water to date this year. That doesn't count the 8 million last week that came across. Mayor Dedina goes to Washington, D.C., and he is not here to tell the people what is happening. Councilman West says it's an issue, and in his mind it is. This is a catastrophe. This is a crisis. This is an environmental disaster. And the mayor is not here to address the public on what went on, especially after the events of February 2017, when we were all enraged and encouraged to be enraged at the Citizens Forum Board of the United States International Boundary and Water Commission Citizens Forum Board meeting in early March, which Councilmember Spriggs was co-chair. We were encouraged to have citizens rage. I am the only one who has not squelched that rage other than certain members here. 2 billion gallons to date minus, that doesn't count 8 million that came through last week. This is an environmental and biological terrorist attack on the people of the United States of America, and Mayor Dedina is not here to address the public. That is an atrocity. That is not acceptable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Partlow.
You're welcome.
Next, I'd like to call up Brian Bilbray, Congressman. Yeah. Take your time. Let's not start his time till he's absolutely ready.
As being one of the few here that's been where you are, I've just got to ask you to consider one thing.
Oh, Mr. Bilbray,
Oh.
I just want to say we're giving you extra time because your son's giving you extra 3
Brian
minutes.
Bilbray, 9th and Grove. Okay. The what I've got showing you is that the experts that you hired, and let me just say flat out, you're responsible for directing staff and controlling these. And there's a lot of talk about we really care about the environment and climate change here. When your first major project since making that and suing somebody is to take a tree like this, and when someone says that's blocking the view of the estuary, so it has to go. Tell me that you can't look at that tree and realize that any reasonable person who was taking care of their tree would trim the lower branches, not slaughter the tree. That is a view shed that we have now. That's what we can be proud of, that the first thing we do under our environmental strategy is to kill a 40-year-old tree, every 40-year-old tree for 3 blocks. How we're going to tell the world. When we stand up before judges and say how bad other people are in climate change, they're going to look at the fact that this city allowed a consultant to slaughter 40-year-old trees that took a long time to grow, sequestering. You've got trees that were 32 inches wide. Has anybody driven this? Mr. Spriggs, I know you've been driving this. In fact, let me point out, and you don't see the picture, and it's too bad. This is a classic example. Every tree had to be cut down. The consultant said, we will save whatever we can. Well, there's a good example. There's the difference. You look at where this tree is, and I'll ask you to go through these things later. There's no reason for a tree to get cut down except it's easier for other people to do it. And you'll say, we had to cut it down. I'm telling you, I've been where you are. No, you had to take the time to care enough to make sure they didn't take chainsaws to trees that it will never be replaced. Never be able to be replaced. Is this tree going to be the next one? The greeter tree at the end of the entrance of the city? Or are we just going to be able to sit there? And I've got this young lady up here because, ladies and gentlemen, this lady is going to be a middle-aged woman by the time we have a mature tree like we had that were cut down. The fact is this thing did not have to be cut down. And, The real problem is not the trees are slaughtered. The real problem is this city moved on a project because the people in the San Diego Bicycle Coalition outside the city wanted it. Instead of coming down Holly Street to what all of us that have been grown up here knew how to do it, that the Sandag wanted this project. And if you're going to do it right and allow the traffic to flow. And Mr. Spriggs, pray that we do not have a tsunami, because you and I know that your neighborhood will never get out. And it's too bad I don't have the picture of the traffic patterns during a fireworks. You will not, and you got to tell them, your neighborhood better remain really flexible, because if tsunami comes, you're going to have to be flexible enough to bend over and kiss your hiney goodbye, because nobody's going to get out. Now, we can take care of this, but you can't do it by blocking and obstructing traffic. And come on, guys, admit it. That is a strategy that's going on all over the place. But to do it where you have, how many roads are south of Palm Avenue between 5th and between 4th and 5th? Can you guys tell me how many roads? The entire, every east-west road south of Palm Avenue, we have two. And they're all being obstructed. Don't listen to Sandag. Don't listen to your consultants. Listen to people who have grown up here with trees being cut down by the thousands, and nobody gets there. Oh, by the way, just so you can make sure that we mitigate for people going to Hawaii to talk about climate change, you don't think that was a little credibility that they're not going to bring up in court when you sue somebody? That the impact of your strategy is to cut down trees and send people in airplanes all around. And I totally support you guys going up to the city issue at the state. Totally responsible. But you got to look at what you're doing and then look around and say, are you an environmentalist and are you standing up for the environment? And I guess the problem is, will you please stop listening to people outside of the city that don't know this town? You don't need to serve or to give people what they want who are outside the city, but you're here to give the people inside the city what they need. Please take a look at that. Don't let this happen again. And that means having to take the time to make sure the project's done right the first time. Outside of that, I don't have an opinion on the issue, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And definitely we do need to look at that closer. Gentlemen. Okay, with that, we have more? So right now, I'd like to bring up the recognition of the Imperial Beach Athletic Club, and Derek Fernandez, Vice President of IBAC, will come up to the podium.
I was hoping I wouldn't have to go next, but Mayor Pro Tem, council members, my name is Derek Fernandez. I'm the Vice President of the Imperial Beach Athletic Club. And today we're here to say thank you to the council, to the city staff, and to the community for supporting the Imperial Beach Athletic Club. We've been around for 2 years and we have almost 50 members, and we're making a huge impact in the city. And today we're here to give a donation towards the skate park. And this is just one of many donations that we've given back to the city. There's a whole list of them. And today I'm just here to say thank you for the great partnership and continue to support. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Let's give him a hand. So can we, and I'm a member of IBAC and I'm a member of other clubs in town, and IBAC really does do a lot in this town, and they've been really well accepted. And thank you, IBAC. So
You want to?
yeah, we'll get a photo. Yeah. So IBAC
Thank you.
members, you want to come up and we'll get a photo?
He's the member. Yeah. Exactly. Hey, get up here, guys. Hey, right here, right here. Get right up here. Put it in the little spot. No, you're fine. Yeah. We got to get a board for you guys. Derek, we'll get you a big board next time with the money up, you know? Man, I love it, Steve. I love it. I know he could.
Thanks again, IBAC. And IBAC members, don't feel like you need to stay for the whole show, but thank you very much. Next up, I'd like the consideration of approval of proclamation honoring Green Homes Day. Councilmember West will introduce the item.
Yeah, so I'd like to, whereas the San Diego Green Building Council will host its 10th annual Green Homes Tour to bring together the local community to celebrate best practices in green building and design. And whereas the Green Homes Tour showcases the innovative work of the region's top industry professionals, whereas public tours and notable residents, and whereas the Green Homes Tour strives to inspire all members of the community, including industry professionals and members of the general public, to make more environmentally responsible choices when it comes to home building and design. And whereas the San Diego Green Building Council works to advance the green building marketplace within San Diego County through education, community partnerships, advocating policy, and developing resources. And whereas the city of Imperial Beach recognizes the many benefits of reducing greenhouse emissions for the health of the Imperial Beach economy, people, and natural resources, including improved air and water quality, energy efficiency, water conservation, grant opportunities, and cost savings. And now, therefore, be it resolved that our Mayor Pro Tem of Imperial Beach, on behalf of the citizens of Imperial Beach, do hereby proclaim October 19, 2019 to be Green Homes Day throughout the city of Imperial Beach. In many ways, this is a big step. The Green Homes Tour that's going to be happening in our community on the 19th is actually found one of our homes in our community to celebrate as a model green home throughout our community. And I was happy to be that was my house. I got selected for it. You know, I'm very excited about that. The work that I did through placing my so the home has got, we've got a green garden in the front that is all water conservation. We've installed solar and battery. We have 2 electric cars. My water is all recycled in my house to use to waters my yard. But what I'm really excited about this really goes to the things that we're talking about in our community on our CAP, our Climate Action Plan. They are going to be bringing industry professionals on the 19th to my house that will help people of our community find the resources and the builders to come into our community and actually install these things. It's not, because a lot of times people think, oh, it's too expensive to do, you can't do it, it's too hard, what do we have to go through? You know what? The San Diego Green Building Council breaks down those barriers and allows people to understand the ways they can do it. So I'm very excited. They were nice enough to come out and contact me, and I'm happy to be there. So on the 19th, come to my house, and you'll be able to see it. So very excited about this. So I'd like to move forward with a motion to approve the Green Homes Day in Imperial Beach on October 19th.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carried unanimously by those present.
Okay. Thank you. So next up is the consideration of approval of proclamation celebrating I Love It Clean San Diego's 65th anniversary. And so I'm just going to read the proclamation. Do we have anybody here from I Love Clean San Diego? No? So a lot of whereases, but whereas I Love Clean San Diego, the leading environmental organization serving communities throughout San Diego, they have nearly 20,000 requests a year to help residents divert water. I Love Clean San Diego actively engages thousands of school children and businesses. I Love Clean San Diego mobilizes hundreds of thousands of residents and volunteers in protecting watersheds and ocean through large-scale cleanups. And over its 65-year history, I Love Clean San Diego volunteers have helped save an estimated 5 million tons of waste and debris from entering our ocean through concentrated cleanups in inland San Diego to the coast. And that's where you always see them down at the beach doing these huge cleanups. So this is huge. So now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Robert Patton, Mayor Pro Tem of Imperial Beach, together with the City Council, take great pleasure in commending I Love Clean San Diego for its 65 years of outstanding service, leadership, and commitment. I do hereby proclaim, it's actually says November 7th, 2019, because we won't be here that day. November 7th, so I Love Clean San Diego, just wait, November 7th. You will have your own day in Imperial Beach. Thank you. And nobody's here from I Love Clean San Diego, but we'll get it to them. Okay. And so I entertain a motion to approve the proclamation supporting I Love Clean San Diego.
So moved.
Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously
Okay,
by
thank
those
you.
present.
So next up, we have a briefing on the water main project by Cal Am Water. And I'd like to invite Brian Barletto, External Affairs with Cal Am Water, to the podium to give the presentation.
Do I only get 2 minutes or no? Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council and city staff. My name is Brian Barretto. I'm External Affairs Manager for Southern California at California American Water. I wanted to thank you for this opportunity to come in and brief you about a very important project that we have undertaken. I think some of you may be aware of it, and I imagine a lot of the residents that are here and the customers that are watching are aware that we are undertaking what we call the Palm Avenue water main project. But before I begin, I'd like to introduce some of our team members that are here tonight with me.
You guys have to stand up.
These are, yes, please. These are the people that are actually on the ground here every day, managing the project day in and day out. Jacob Quick, who's our senior project manager. Mark Duchesne, who's our construction engineer. Robert Becerra, who you know, he's our San Diego County operations manager. Mark Reifer, our engineer manager and project delivery employee. And then also, I did not know that he was coming, but Chris Mattis, the big fella as he's known, he's our operations director for the entire Southern California district. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna provide you an overview of our project, and then our colleagues here to answer any of the technical questions that you may have. I'm not an engineer, but that's why they're here. But I'd also really would like to take this time to acknowledge city staff. All too often we hear that when things don't go well, when there's a problem, you know, people come up here and just gripe and moan and groan. I can tell you that city staff through this whole project up to this day has been very, very accommodating. They've been very insightful, they've been very professional, and they've been very timely. Robert, Jacob, Mark, they've told me that whenever there's an issue that comes up at a moment's notice, when we call any of the city staff, they're there, they go out to the field, they come to our weekly meetings, they participate on our conference calls. So I just want to let you know that you should commend your staff on this project, because this is a very, very big project, and it's going to take some considerable amount of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of coordination. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that. And thank you to the city staff. It's great. So I have a couple of slides that I'll go through. Very quickly, the scope of our project, which we call the Palm Avenue Water Main Project. We're replacing roughly about a little less than 6,000 square linear feet, or about 1.1 miles of 16-inch cast iron main. This main was originally installed in 1912, so it's over 100 years old. We're replacing it with 16-inch PVC main along Old Palm Avenue and SR 75. The furthest east section is Corvina Street, and we're going all the way to 13th Street along SR 75. Along with the water main, we're installing new water services, fire hydrants, isolation valves, and we will also be restoring the pavement along Palm Avenue and SR 75. The benefits of the project, most importantly, it allows us to move water, the conveyance of water from the city of San Diego, where we get our water, and provide it to our customers here in Imperial Beach, and also to the remainder of our San Diego County operations system. This new main will provide safe, reliable, and an efficient water supply for many, many years to come. The construction schedule, which everybody wants to know about, when did we start, when is it going to end, how much of an inconvenience is this going to be? So we started in July of this year. We started with potholing, which is where our crews went out, looked, dug into the ground, looked for the other utilities that are along Palm Avenue and along SR 75. That has been completed. And now we are currently in the process of installing the pipe and the tie-ins. And it's going to be done in sections. It's going to be done every 1,000 feet. So they're going to lay 1,000 feet of pipe, and then they're going to tie in all the services and the laterals, and then they're going to bury it back up, cover it, reseal it, and then move on to the next 1,000 feet. Our estimated completion timeline is March of 2020. That's as long as everything goes well, we have no delays, and the weather holds up for us. Our work hours, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with no work on the weekends. Thanksgiving Day, Christmas, and New Year's Day. I understand that we are not working on any of the major holidays, and we're also not working the day after Thanksgiving. And I just learned today that I think it's the day before Thanksgiving and the day before Christmas we are not also working as well. So we're truly, really trying to be conscious of everybody's time. We realize that the holidays are coming up, and we feel that this is going to be a good schedule for us going forward. This next slide talks about where we started. So we're beginning at Corvina Street, which is on the east side of the city, on Old Palm Avenue. The traffic impacts, as you know, currently right now, there is street closure on Palm Avenue between Corvina and Rainbow. And there's currently a detour. If you're going westbound on Old Palm, there's a detour where you make a right on Rainbow, go up 2 blocks, make a left, go down like 4 blocks, come down, make another left, and then make a right back onto Palm Avenue. The reason for that is because there's only one lane there. There is some parking. And on the next slide, you will see here is the blue line indicates where our main line is, the alignment of our main line. On the very far left is Corvina Street, and then the very far right is Carolina Street. And you will see between Corvina Street and Rainbow, the water main is on the north side of the median, or on the north side, based the westbound side of Palm Avenue. And then just past Rainbow Drive, you'll notice that it'll jump back down to the south side of Palm Avenue, or the eastbound side of the lane, and it'll continue eastbound to Carolina Street. Once we get up to that area, then we will start on 13th Street. From 13th Street, going westbound on Palm Ave or on SR 75. However, that won't happen until we get a permit, a Caltrans permit, which we're waiting on, and we anticipate it will come through any day now. The traffic impacts on SR 75 will be a little bit different. Westbound lane 1 and westbound lane 2 will be impacted. And also the lane 3 and the shoulder parking area will be impacted as well, because on the next slide you will notice this shows 13th Street on the west side going westbound to 11th Street going west along SR 75. You will see that the blue line indicates that our main line is in lane 1 of SR 75. So lane 2 will also be impacted with traffic control. It'll also be where we'll stage some of our equipment when we're out there at that time. So what'll happen is we'll take traffic down to 1 lane, either on the shoulder, and there will be no parking along SR 75 on westbound when we're in that section. So it'll go down to one lane. Traffic will squeeze through, and then as they get past the construction zone, then it'll open back up to the full extent that SR 75 is. I would remind all of the residents and anybody that commutes along SR 75 during this timeline to be patient, and also to please plan ahead, because there could be some traffic delays. There'll be more traffic on the road just because we're taking some of the lanes off of SR 75. So I would just encourage everybody to be mindful of that, and just plan ahead as we continue through this project. The next couple of slides continue to show the alignment. 11th Street on the right-hand side, continuing down the west side, westbound on SR 75 to 9th Street. And then the next slide shows 9th Street on the right-hand side going up to Delaware. And then at Delaware, you'll notice that we come through the intersection back onto Old Palm Avenue and connect right at 7th Street. When we go through this intersection right here at Delaware, connecting through up to Old Palm with SR 75, we will actually be doing night work there to alleviate some of the traffic and any of the traffic control out there at that time. And then I think this next slide outlines some of the customer communications and notifications that have taken place to date. I think you'll notice that we have a pretty extensive and outgoing outreach to our residents and to your residents and to our customers. We sent an initial letter in July to all of the customers that are within 500 feet of the construction site, basically from Corvina all the way to 13th Street along SR 75 and Palm Avenue. It was roughly about a little less than 600 customers, residents, and businesses that we notified about this. We are also engaged with the city in terms of social media posts. We've done some joint social media posts on Facebook and Twitter with the city. We're going to continue that practice going forward in terms of continuing to provide updates to the community on our social media posts, and we'd love to partner with the city as well. A lot of people may have noticed we have a construction message board, which is on Palm Avenue, right near Georgia Street. And here's in this slide, there's a picture of it, and then which talks about the dates and times and the hours of construction. We also have daily inspection reports. Mark Duchesne and his team puts together an inspection report. It talks about the work that happens on any given day. He distributes that to us internally, and then I know I've been forwarding over to Andy Hall, the city manager, and I would encourage him to please share it with your staff. I also do know that Mark sends it over to the city staff, and they also have record and copies of the work that's going on out there as well. And then Jacob and his team, they host a bi-weekly project progress meeting. It's held at California American Water here at 10th and Palm Avenue, where everybody comes together, the consultants, our team, the engineers, and city staff, and they talk about the latest happenings, what's going on, any updates to the project, are there any change orders, is there anything that we need to be concerned about, and then they sort of huddle, and then they break, and then they go off and continue on the project. So we think that that's a really, really good thing. And as I mentioned, I provide Andy, the city manager, the emails of our progress reports. And then I'd love to be able to come back as we progress through this project and provide you, the council, and the mayor and the mayor pro tem with some additional updates. I would encourage anybody that has any questions or concerns, please, I'm always available, but also our team is available to address any questions or concerns. If you guys, throughout your day, we know that you talk to a lot of the constituents here in the community who are our customers. If you receive any questions or if there's anything that you would like to know more about, please direct people to us. We'd love to answer any questions you guys may have. So with that, we'd love to answer any questions you have.
If I could, I just wanted to thank Brian. He's been really good at getting us information, and we've tried to put that up on our website. And I've noticed that it gets reposted on a lot of I hate the city manager pages throughout the city. But it has been very helpful, I think, getting the word out to the community. So we really appreciate not only you, but whoever those do-gooders are that then spread the word. That's been very helpful, and I think, you know, as best as we can, we've been able to keep people up.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Any
Any
questions?
questions? For Brian or the staff? Or
A
part
little bit of both.
Part of the crew.
A little bit of both.
You guys ready?
So which one do you want to bring up?
I'm good with the staff. I think you'll be able to answer my questions. But I have my most pertinent question is actually for Andy, City Manager Hall. So, I'm a little concerned with the Caltrans. We are on a very tight time frame to get this completed, and Caltrans is stopping some of their project from moving forward, which delays the entire process. I feel like they actually did it in some of Imperial Beach. I thought we had control over this road, and I really want to get to the bottom of this.
Uh-oh.
And I see a lot of shaking heads, so I think I'm saying the right things.
I think Jacob can maybe provide some context, because I know that he's been working very, very closely with Caltrans. So if I could ask Jacob to come
I'm
on,
not even sure why.
Well,
and he'll be able to.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, if you don't mind, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great.
Totally.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to let us come in front of you and speak on your behalf. Thank
Well,
you.
you can move the mic.
Oh, that's true.
There you go. You don't have to stand there.
It's been great to have all of the coordination involved in this project. So with your question regarding Caltrans, their reason for stopping the work, according to them, is our traffic control is backing up into their right away so their right away starts at approximately Georgia, just east of Georgia, heading towards 16th Street, and our merging of the lanes with signage and cones and error boards directing traffic to merge to lane 1 starts at around 16th Street.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying that essentially it wasn't the work you were doing; it was because it was a backup into the city of San Diego, which Caltrans still control.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that answers my question.
Okay.
Night work notification. So this is I'm happy that you know the area that you're planning on doing the night work on it's a really critical turn in and turn out of our community, and I'm happy that you're trying to do that at night, because I think it'll be the less impact. What are the night hours going to be, and what is going to be how long is it going to take, and that's what I'm concerned about.
Sure. So I think Jacob, do we know yet, Jacob? We don't know yet, but I will we can make this commitment that once we get the timeline and the time frame, that once we are prepared to go to night work, that we will go back out and notify those customers within 500 feet of that intersection and that area, just to make sure that they are aware of it, so that there's no surprises, and that if they need to make any additional plans, or if they need to do something different within their home or in their business, that they're able to make those arrangements.
Great. Okay. And then I also want to say a little statement about Cal American Water, if you don't mind. I think that there are many different businesses and major businesses in our community, with whether it's SDG&E, Cal American Water, AT&T, Cox. These are all major players in our community, and I was talking to City Manager Hall about this. I do not know a better. You and Edco run head and head all the time about being great partners to our community and great partners to employ people, to give back to our community, and really be. So I'm saying thank you to Cal American Water, but I also am saying the rest of them, AT&T, they need to stand up. They need to step up to the plate. We need them to be bigger partners for our community, because it's important for when little communities like us are on a shoestring budget, we need our major contributors to actually help bring more stuff into it. And you've been, whether it was the park down below or all the murals we've done, I know you've been a big part. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And last but not least, tomorrow's your birthday, right?
Yes.
Tomorrow is Brian's birthday, and happy birthday. So.
Thank you. And thank you for those kind comments.
You bet.
Any other questions, concerns, anything?
Yeah, I have a concern, or not concern, a question about the road that once it's done, what fellow would be about the road condition once
Repaving.
it's-
would be
the
Jacob.
work's all done? I want that road to be as pretty and
As it
as
was.
nice as it was, or better, than what you found it. How can you guarantee that?
We'll work with closely with Juan Leros, the city engineer here, on that. And any road, any lane that's been affected will be repaved in its entirety. And then we're also putting in some continental striping for the walking paths as requested by the city. And can't remember all the details, but it will be in a better condition from where we left it.
Yeah, I think it's super important that especially a project this big,
Yeah.
that you leave with a nice clean slate. Say we came, we disrupted a little, we're making things better, and we're leaving things nice. So thank you
Absolutely.
for that.
And now we have you into the record too, so
Yeah.
we will hold you
So-
accountable.
So Brian, you want to come up? My last comment would be thanks. I know you're alternating the detours down certain streets because I go that route every day.
Sure.
And I just want to remind citizens and everybody who's watching this or in this room to go down the streets slowly. All those residents, I'm sure, not happy about it, but I see that you're alternating the detour.
Yes.
And so I hope that people would follow those detour signs and just give the one street a break.
Sure.
And then my other comment would be just remind people to slow down around construction. I see people go so fast around the construction, I just can't believe. So what are you doing I see you guys have somebody with a slow sign. Any other thing that you're doing to keep your guys safe, your men and women?
So we are following all of the traffic control guidelines with the signage and with the distances of all of that. So we're doing that. One of the things that we talked about is adding some additional social media posts that we would partner with the city, that the city could promote within the community, reminding people that there is construction on these specific streets, there are some detours, and to be mindful of the speed limits within those communities. And it's just one of the things that we can do as well. We're also going to put it up on our webpage, and we'd love to be able to partner with the city to put it up on the webpage as well, your city's webpage as well.
Great
Yeah.
idea.
That's a great suggestion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Briggs, that's it for me.
I just went that route, and the cars in front of me were just zooming down through the detour street. And I don't know, maybe people need to be reminded because, it's 40, 45 miles an hour on 75, and maybe folks mistakenly think they can run parallel to 75 at the same speed. Maybe we need some sort of I don't know, signage that is electronic or something to remind people.
Of the speed zone, of the speed
that
limit in that
we're now
in
entering a
that
25
area,
mile an hour speed
posting,
zone.
maybe
So when
posting
you make that detour,
posting a sign that says 25 miles an hour or 30
Right.
miles an hour, whatever the speed limit is
Right.
in that area. I think we can take a look at that, and we can take that back and take a look at that and see if we can make that happen.
I think it'd go along.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to say this was very informative, and I look forward to you coming back, periodically, another month, another quarter, something like that, as this project progresses, because I think it's very valuable for the community to hear what's going on and why it's happening. Because if they don't, then it's just an inconvenience with no benefit in mind.
That's very true. Thank you. And I'd be happy to come back. Thank you.
Anything else? You good?
I think that's it.
Well,
thank you very much.
for the presentation.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hall?
Yeah, I just hope
Yeah.
they'll put in a project that'll last longer this time.
The next 100 years.
It's only been 107 years. But
Yeah.
Thank you very much for
Right.
your time.
Thank you. So before we go to consent, I do have a few more speaker slips. So I'd like to bring up Eric Syverson. Or call up.
And 2.9, 2.6 and 2.9.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
My name's Eric Syverson, Imperial Beach native, 1311 Connecticut Street. Today's October 2nd, 2019, so I'm a little early, but that's all right. On October 17, 2018, my wife had the pleasure of picking up the slack for me and reading to you a paper I had written about literally walking upon a transboundary flow with Joe Little from NBC News. We were actually going to look for pilot channel tomato plants at the time, and I had been there before. It was dry, blah, blah, blah. So here we are a year later. I had told the city at that time via that paper I felt they needed to abandon, completely abandon the leadership that has been provided here, hire a freshwater river expert to study the riparian environment of the valley, the historical and ecologically correct habitats of the valley, and to go on its own and create its own database of knowledge, separate from Wild Coast, separate from Surfrider, separate from you elected officials. The city itself, its own database of knowledge, separate from its other stakeholders who look after their own stakes, not ours, and never have looked after ours, ever, 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 to the point where today, the numerical representation to it as phone down the valley, pardon me, down a completed 45-year concrete flood channel on the Mexican side. That's why the water gets so rapidly nowadays. Nobody thinks about that because we don't have a river expert. This is the numerical representation. 2,110,618,300 gallons. The most depressing part about this for me, it does not include a highly contested July 9th flow before the Sun Festival and the mayor's
Mr. Syverson, nobody anywhere else can hear you.
I don't care. Doesn't include the flow we found on July 9th.
Mr. Syverson, can you use a microphone?
I found a flow this week. No one cares. We're going to give $400 million. That'll be wasted. $15 million from WASO. The two people most responsible for this are not here. 3 of you were in D.C. We can't get 3 of you in a damn meeting here, and you're in D.C. together in a picture? We fought managed retreat, and all of you claimed the Brown Act. All of you, Mr. West.
Okay, next up, I'd like to call
Oh, it's me.
Baron Partlow,
Oh, sorry, I gotta wait for travel. Damn.
also on 2.6.
Again, Chairman, again, distinguished members of the council, city staff. Aaron Partlow, 1868 Catella Street, San Diego, California, world-class body surfer, member of the United States International Boundary Water Commission, Citizens Forum Board, founder, Stop the Poop, former Imperial Beach resident. Let me first say this. Along the concrete channel on the northern levee, we all know that there's serious degradation happening due to rodents. IBWC has a project from the border, 4,000 linear feet west, along the northern levee is going to be raised either 0 inches or 8 feet to reinforce that concrete, not the concrete channel, the north levee in the flood control plain, not the flood control channel as Mr. Sybus had mentioned. I'm going to point out that I document these flows, and when he says that on July 9th there is a flow that is not documented, we documented it. We documented the flow last week. We alert IBWC, as happened so many times, that there is a flow going. We go down there, we get contaminated, so you don't have to, hopefully. And I want to know, and I'm going to bring it to your attention, and I made video documentation of this. There's blockage west of Hollister. There's blockage east of Hollister, and the water sits there. Is that the Kool-Aid of the nonprofits that Mayor Dedina says the government left it up to? when they said your lawsuit has no standing. It's up to you guys to fix your problem. He stood right here and said it. And then he said it's up to local NGOs. Is that the Kool-Aid? That's standing water with a pump station just south of the river on Hollister Street that continues to sit there and just wait for the next flow and go out there and pollute this city. Nothing is done. You claim you're an environmentalist. How many years has Wild Coast and Surfrider been on this? And it's getting worse. You gotta go. You gotta get out of our way. You can't even tell us what President Trump or his staff, because he was not even in D.C., said to us, the citizens, the major stakeholders who Surfrider wants to admonish, like I've said before, do not want to engage the citizens of Coralgate or any other non-profitable, and I mean profit for your NGOs, the citizen stakeholders, the people who we swore oaths to protect and serve first. We are directly responsible to those we serve. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but in the absence of the people who were there representing us, this just cannot keep happening. This is insane. And the solution is let's keep throwing American dollars to Mexico. What kind of insanity is that? Albert Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. This isn't going to work. We need to think outside the box and make Mexico start paying their way. Sanction them if necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Partlow. Next up, Eric Syverson. On 2.7 and 2.9.
This is concerning all city travel. Congressman Bill Bray touched on it before. Right now, I'll read to you words from Mayor Dedina, State Lands Commission, December 2018. Chris Helmer, Paloma Aguirre were present as well. David Ravel was present as well. The topic was managed retreat. However, what I will read from concerns the lawsuits of the largest major oil companies. Mayor Dedina's words. Number 2, the city of Imperial Beach, because we have no money, literally zero. We have no money at all. We're the lowest income coastal beach city in Southern California. 25% poverty rate for our residents, not something I'm proud of. 30% poverty rate for kids. We have no money to implement the strategy. That's why we filed a law against 35 of the world's largest fossil fuel companies in partnership with blah, 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 blah. We filed a lawsuit based on climate change. Our mayor continually, Mr. West just told me we have no money. We continue to send our elected officials all over the world. The mayor's carbon footprint is 2 tons, 9,000 miles on only 3 trips. I have not included DC. I also know the mayor and Mr. Hall are named in a countersuit filed by ExxonMobil, with the basis of the countersuit being fruits of the labor, meaning if you continue to travel on fossil fuels, you may put us in jeopardy. That is one of 35 litigants mentioned in this. Are we going to be exposed to 34 other countersuits if I continue to stand and watch you guys send each other to travel to different wonderful locations? And thank God Miss Aguirre canceled that Jackson Hole, even though it is wonderful in October. What a beautiful resort. The hypocrisy of it all. Climate change, climate change, climate change. Fossil fuels, fossil fuels, fossil fuels. Green home absolutely wiped out by traveling in an airplane. 100% wiped out. It's not even debatable. His electric cars wiped out by air travel. 100%. It's not debatable, Mr. West. It's the dirtiest travel there is. Mitigation does not count. It is wiped out. So is everything you guys are doing in terms of this, and then you sue. Thank you very much for the leadership. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Syverson. Next up, I'd like to call Mitch McKay on talking about item 2.9.
Good evening, Mitch McKay, 714 Holly Avenue, Imperial Beach.
I thought we voted to pull this off. 2.9's off, not on.
I'd like to address Mayor Pro Tem Patton and Council Members Sprigg and West, as well as the staff. First of all, I want to applaud Paloma for retracting her travel request. I was also going to request from her an explanation, although she's not here tonight, of how a city council member from Imperial Beach going and attending a 3-day Nature as Medicine Festival in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, provides any benefit to our city and even more so to our residents. The festival's literature claims it will develop the business case for nature as medicine. The event is convening industry leaders around the advancement of nature as a social determinant of health, an invaluable addition to the movement to protect the natural world. Again, I wish Paloma was here to defend her request for over $1,200 of the city's money. I think I just, well, I'd like to quote Mark West, we're on a shoestring budget here. So, and as I understand it, the travel that the city council has done this year, and I'm not saying any or all of those other trips were unnecessary. I believe some of them were. However, from what my understanding is, in the first 6 months of the year, we've already overspent the entire year's budget. So, you know, I got to live by a budget. The city manager has to live by a budget. You guys need to live by a budget. Furthermore, referencing the city's travel and reimbursement policy, which is contained within the city resolution 2017-7860 as Exhibit A, I can find no reasonable rationale to support this request that's been withdrawn. I would hope that none of the other city council members would make such an error in judgment. Any kind of junket or boondoggle travel should also be looked at very seriously. I would request that as part of the Exhibit A that maybe some additional word or language be added that requires the city council members to provide a sentence, 2 sentences, some kind of justification for why this trip is necessary and how it will benefit the city and the city's residents. I mean, I you know, based on all the other stuff that's been said, this might seem trivial, but you know, it's about you know, taking the job seriously. I still cannot wrap my head around why a city council member thinks going to Jackson Hole, Wyoming for 3 days on a speaker panel to talk about toolkits and metrics for equitable access to nature. How the hell does it have anything to do with this city? How is that going to make my life better, the residents of this city better, those kids that are in poverty better? I just, you know, I can't understand it at all. You know, if Councilmember Aguirre wants to go on those kind of trips, I suggest she solicit her full-time employer, Wild Coast, have them pay for it. Thank you.
Mr. McKay, thank you.
City Manager Hall, can you elaborate on some of the discussions you've had with Councilmember Aguirre around the specific topic? Like really short. Yeah.
Okay. Well, when I contacted her, she said that she was hoping to be able to attend this conference to understand better ways to that elected officials can increase the amount of open space that you have in communities to improve the health of the residents and bring down insurance costs. I guess if I put it in a.
She just wasn't here to defend herself.
That's
so
that was the response that she gave me.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve consent calendar items 2.1 through 2.3 and 2.5 through 2.8. Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously by those present.
Okay, now we're going to move to the item that was pulled off consent calendar 2.4, Resolution 2019-8090 approving termination of lease agreement with Sweetwater Union High School District for a lease of the property at 170 Palm Avenue, Imperial Beach, and approving a memorandum of understanding relating to shared use of city facilities. City Manager Hall will give a report.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council, in a briefing last night with Councilmember Spriggs, he had some questions, and I thought it might be good to clarify because maybe some of you have the same questions. It'd be a good idea to talk about what this resolution does. The city owns the property where the Adult Education Center is. The city is the owner of that property, and in 1997, we entered into a 55-year lease with the school district that they could build a facility on that piece of property, and after 55 years, that building then would revert back to the ownership of the city. But there were some clauses in that agreement, and those clauses said if you quit using the Adult Education Center for adult education classes, or if the building is vacant, then the city wants to reclaim ownership of that building, because exactly what we see now, that building is falling into decay because it's not being used. And anybody who's watching that building sees that that building is quickly the broken window theory. If you don't take care of a building, it certainly decays relatively quickly. So what this does essentially is that the school district has said, okay, we don't anticipate using the Adult Education Center at any time in the near future for adult education, so they have reverted that ownership back to the city. What we are not doing tonight is making any kind of determination on how we intend to use that building. We are simply terminating the lease. Now that once the documents have been signed, that will be the ownership of the city. So the city now will own that building. We plan to go in later this week, now that has happened, and do an assessment of what needs to happen so that that building can be occupied. It has had a lot of deferred maintenance. The school district has been very clear with us. They have not properly maintained that building for a long period of time. And so we're going to need to go in there and find out what kind of deferred maintenance there is. And then we will certainly bring that information together with some different options for the city council to consider about how we now use this new asset that we have in the community, whether or not we want to maybe use that for the private sector, whether it's not there's something the city wants to do in the public sector. But I did want to explain to you that we're not purchasing anything from the school district. We have always owned that property. In many terms, by the lease, we've owned the building, and we believe that it's not being used properly. So we're bringing it back into our ownership so it can be properly maintained, and then we'll bring back to the council next steps. So that's what that item is on the agenda. And those were good questions last night, so I just wanted to make sure we clarified that.
Mr. Spriggs?
Thanks. I really appreciate that, Mr. Hall, and in pulling it to give that explanation. I think that's very helpful. I did want to register some concerns. You referred to it as an asset. After many years of neglect, I'm not sure what that review is going to reveal. Sometimes when buildings are neglected so badly, there's really no economic use for them. At some point in time, they have to be torn down. And we also need to make it available to the Sweetwater Union School District for programs free in the future, if by mutual agreement we can't charge for it. So essentially, this is kind of looking at the glass half empty. But I think from a budgetary standpoint, we sometimes need to do that. So they've neglected the building for all this time. We then take it over. It's kind of like the relinquishment of Route 75 in a way. We take it over. We, I don't know, spend $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, I don't know, getting it up to some point where it can be useful. I don't know how much that'll be, but it could be significant. And then they get to use it free if they need to use it by mutual agreement. So it just seems to me that we probably ought to be taking this action after we have an idea of what we're getting into, rather than before. Not that we have any choice, because they're out. The lease provides that it comes back to us, but we're we're actually taking a decision to accept it without really understanding the cost implications. That makes me uncomfortable. I don't like making decisions without having a better idea of what the cost implications to the city might be, what the potential uses might be, and for example, uses that could be revenue generating for the city. We just haven't had those discussions. I'm sure we'll have them in the future, but then we'll have the albatross, and we've already made the decision. So that's just my my sense of the proper order of things is you have an idea of what you're getting, and then you act to get it, as opposed to acting this week, as opposed to a week or 2 weeks from now, when we'll have a much better idea and you'll be able to report on the condition of the building more accurately, and maybe even with our fabulous public works and other staff have an estimate of what it would take to bring it up to a useful stature again.
Yeah, let me clarify a couple things. One, the agreement with the school district is that we will provide to them a city facility to have adult education classes should they want to do that. It may not be in that building. We can do it in any city facility. It may be our community room or whatever, not necessarily in that building. The decision that staff would look at is, or at least the recommendation that we have and why we would recommend approval of this is, the school district is not going to put any more maintenance into it. Every day, that building gets worse and worse. So regardless of what we're getting it in better condition today than the longer we wait. There is no maintenance going into that building from the school district. So the reality
we're
is,
both right.
Right, yeah, exactly.
We're both right. You're absolutely right. Better we get it now rather than let it deteriorate further. I agree with that. But I also, we're going to vote on something, and we don't have really a decent picture of what we're getting, even though we really don't have much choice in the matter. I just think that, a week or two delay where we actually have an idea is the way this council should act. We should act on the basis of what the best information available, not no information. So that's my only point. And I think if we need to proceed with this for other reasons of timing, then we do so. But if we don't have to proceed with this because we're of the expiration of the lease or whatever, then I just assume we take it up in a couple weeks when we have more information. Not that we'll reach a different decision, we'll just be wiser for it.
So, Madam Clerk, did we have any speaker slips on that?
No, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
So, Mr. Spriggs, I understand, half and half. He's right, you're right. Mr. West, what's your opinion on it?
I think I do think that there's going to be some revenue generation ideas that we can use. I mean, I think that this is going to become one of those triple P ideas that I hope we can find a public-private partnership to really do something in there to make it. Because right now, the building is quickly becoming a place for homeless and a place for disregard in our community. Somebody needs to take control of this building, because I believe very strongly that the school district is not. And I've had many discussions with their board members, and they don't seem to be interested in this building whatsoever. So that makes me think that somebody needs to take control of it, and I'm not happy that we're in that situation, to tell you the truth. I think that I will be very interested to see what happens when you do go in there and find how much disregard is really in there.
We've been in there. I want to make it clear, we've done some precursory review of the building. It's not going to fall tomorrow. It's falling next week.
Yeah, Andy, I'm not saying that. What I'm really saying is when we really look at it from a financial perspective,
Right.
what Mr. Spriggs is talking about. So we definitely need to do that. But I do not believe that the situation that it's in right now is the best thing. I think somebody needs to be in control of it, and I'd rather us take control of it now than later. Because I think either way, Councilmember Spriggs, I think we're going to have to pay for something. And what I'm hopeful, though, is it is a jewel of a building in many ways. It's in a great location, and I am hopeful that when we do find out that we're able to tap into a good PPP and really make this happen to where, and I know that there are organizations like MAC and different organizations that are interested in coming to Imperial Beach and helping us on some of these things. So those are the organizations that I think are important. So I would rather get this moving now, and then we find out all the details a little bit later. But because right now, no one's back. It's just sitting there falling apart.
Yeah, good points. And I feel whether we take it today or in 2 weeks, there's still going to be a lot of zeros that's going to have to be spent on this building. The fact of the matter is, if we wait 2 weeks, either way, we're still going to take it. We're not going to say we don't want it. So I just feel that we should go ahead and accept it tonight and let the city get their stamp on it and get control of that building where we can move forward immediately.
Just one second.
Yep. Oh, was there?
We'll just check.
There's there 3 votes are required to take
Right.
right. So it has to be a unanimous vote.
Yeah.
Just
So
to
if
mention
it's
that.
not unanimous, then it fails. So
What are the ramifications? Because like if it's, what I'm worried about is if this, since
We would
unlike-
recommend just to continue
Yeah, that's
giving
my,
direction to the city manager to put this on a future agenda. I don't think any action has to be taken or motions have to be made. You can just give him direction to put it on a future agenda.
But that's coming from Mr. Sprigg. And what's coming from Mr. West and I is to vote yes on this immediately. So Mr. Spriggs, you're going to be the one to make the decision here.
When do you think this could come back, and what do we lose in the interim?
Well, the only thing we lose, I think, is time. The school district has moved everything they own out of the building. They've abandoned the building. So at this point in time, I think for us, we just want to go in and find out what we have and start to see if we can't turn this lemon into some lemonade and see if there isn't something that we can do to make this a positive situation. It's just been a negative situation in the community for a long period of time. So I think the only thing we lose is time. I don't think we lose anything other than time. I don't know, there won't be any improvements made to the building, but at least you will have additional information, and at least you'll know what the problem is. I think we'll have a better, we may not have any, in a couple of weeks, we may not have any additional, detailed analysis of how much it's going to cost, but at least, we hope. Right now, what we know is that there are some roof repairs that are needed, and that there are some HVAC repairs that are needed. Beyond that, there's a lot of tender loving care. You guys see the gate is in very poor condition. So it's just a lot of deferred maintenance.
we're not
That's where
meeting-
that building is.
So, and Mr. West, I didn't mean to say how you're going to vote.
Oh, no worries.
I don't know how you're going to vote.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No.
He said how he was going to vote.
Yeah.
No, no.
What
You
question I have?
know what?
wait,
I
hold-
think it makes some sense to bring you guys some additional information. We only have 3 council members here. Why don't we just put this on your next agenda and do it then, and that way we just avoid any appearance.
that
we
would
don't
be
have any
which council meeting is what I'm trying to ask for, because essentially we aren't meeting on the 16th.
We're not.
We are not meeting on the 16th.
So it'll be
it'll be November.
It'll be November 6th.
That's a month.
Yes, that's okay. I mean, that's okay. We can bring you additional information at that time. That's fine.
So, Mr. Spriggs, do you want to restate?
We shouldn't do
a
anything that makes
motion?
someone uncomfortable when they're not.
Oh, you don't?
Would you be able to get in the building
Correct.
between now and then? And
We are. In fact, I think we have an appointment to go in the building on October 4th.
I walk by it every day. I
Yeah, me
see
too.
it.
So we'll do that. We'll get in there and give you guys some better information. Let us do that. That's fine.
Okay.
all right.
Okay, so that's the direction. Okay, so now we're done with that. No?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, we
okay.
don't need a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got it.
So, Mr. Spriggs, I think it was a good
fine.
idea just to move forward on that. Okay, so we're going to move to item 3.1, first reading of ordinance number 2019-1189, amending Imperial Beach Municipal Code Chapter 1550, flood damage prevention. Assistant City Manager Douche will give a report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. So this is an item that comes to you all every now and again when the federal government decides to modify some of the floodplain areas in the city. And so again, starting with the what and the why. So this evening for you is an ordinance on first reading for the adoption of modified flood hazard regulations. And the reason why this is really important is that the compliance with the federal requirements allows the city to maintain its eligibility for everybody in the community to get flood insurance if they choose to get that. So we received a letter from the Federal Emergency Management Agency in June, and then another one just last month. And what it has done is it has modified some of the flood hazard layers. And there are a number of different FIRM maps. FIRM stands for the Federal Insurance Rate Maps. And so what we've done here is done a composite. And this is what the 100-year and the 500-year flood zones will look like under these new revisions. And just so you can, because you may not be able to tell, of course, on this map, what does it look like today? So we did a composite of showing the flood hazard changes. And so on this map, you can see that the purple area and the sort of like light tannish yellowy area, the purple area are areas that are being removed from the 100-year floodplain. And then those tan areas are those that are being added to as a part of the new maps. So again, some areas are coming out and some are staying in. And again, we don't have any control over this. This is what what FEMA provides to us. And so again, our role in this is to make sure that every citizen in the community who wants to obtain or need flood insurance has the ability to do so, and our continued participation in that program. These maps are online as well as the entire study that FEMA had done. So I will suspend the rest of my discussion, and the recommendation is that the City Council introduces by first reading the ordinance, and with that presentation, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any speaker slips?
No, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
The comment period is now closed. It's time for council discussion. Any comment? Mr. Sprigg?
This is kind of an interesting process that's just happening at the same time as our LCP. And maybe you have the answer to this, or maybe one of our colleagues in the room. Our LCP is based in part on the 2016 risk and vulnerability assessment that we did, which had flood maps. In fact, it had a 2-meter 2100 map that showed more extensive flooding than what we see with the FEMA floodplain map. How do you kind of reconcile these two? And the difference in the case of the 2016 report was that flood map assumed we did nothing with regard to beach management, berms, or any other countermeasures, any adaptation strategies. It just assumed status quo and made assumptions regarding sea level rise and storm surge and that sort of thing to come up with that map. Is the methodology here for FEMA similar? Is it assuming that there are no adaptation countermeasures taken by the city? That's my question.
Okay, so just unpacking that, because a lot of great questions. So the FEMA requirements, or the FEMA mapping here, is basically done through the actuarials that the feds put together, and that's how they determine the FIRM maps, the Federal Insurance Rate Maps. That's why some of those areas have come out, and and then some new areas have come in. This is unlike the vulnerability assessment, which was a study based upon projections, And so again, this is just looking at facts on the ground, using actuarials to determine whether or not certain areas within a 100-year storm event or a 500-year storm event, which is a 1% chance every year that there could be damage to that area. That's what these are. They're a little bit. That's a separate sort of analysis that was done then from the vulnerability assessment that looked at a model that said based upon certain criteria on that modeling, this is what could happen. So this is only looking at the sort of facts on the ground. It's not a model like the vulnerability assessment had utilized and looked at those projections. This is guiding development and construction for any of those properties that are within this area. And so what it requires then is if you're in that area, it doesn't necessarily preclude development. Our regulations would just require that you would have to build it 1 foot above the base flood elevation.
So, when this came up, there's a lot of discussion that it's been happening around the country about how FEMA is evaluating these 100 and 500 year floods, and there's 500 they're more called events, and how they're happening more rapidly and a more intense level than what FEMA is actually putting in some of their documents. So I know that when Councilmember Spriggs brings up some good points, but I know that they're not modeling as well. They don't use modeling. They're just talking about certain events that are happening. But what I'm worried about is if these do become more severe and more, how does that affect a person, our own community, as they're dealing with these insurance levels and in dealing with the realities of it? I mean, I look at that map. If you go back to the map, I mean, those are some of the areas that are. You can slide 3 is the one I'd like to see. It's just we're seeing some of this now. So I'm interested on what how much validity it really have in many ways. So I'm trying to I'm trying to pull back a little bit and see. I know FEMA has their regulations that they got to follow. The firm has they're all organizations that they put these and they come up with this. So I guess I'm trying to figure out. Communities around our country are having a hard time dealing with this, and people how am I sending that this is a safe thing that our residents can use to make sure that they're in a good position for the future?
So again, a really good question, because again, while the sort of the sea level rise study and the vulnerability assessment and that modeling is one thing, it's how I think Councilmember Spriggs was asking, how do you reconcile that? And it's a similar question. And so the way that I would approach, or at least think about this, is these maps are generated again based upon sort of events or projections on losses. And so these are tied into the various insurance carriers and how you get a loan or whatnot. And every insurance company is going to look at that a little bit differently. I mean, even without these, some insurance companies, if you want to try to get renter's insurance or something like that within a certain area of the coast, they don't necessarily allow for it. So again, State Farm is one of them. That's right. It used to be a sort of suggestion, and now it's actual policy. So again, what this does is this just allows for, and it just makes sure that anybody in the community who wants to get flood insurance, adopting these requirements and recognizing these maps allows for those individuals to get flood insurance. And those individuals located within these areas where their lender or their insurance company requires it, again, adopting these regulations and these maps allows for those individuals to buy that insurance.
All right, thank you.
Okay, no more discussion? Good. Okay, Madam Clerk, please read the title of Ordinance 2019-1189.
Ordinance number 2019-1189, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Imperial Beach, California, amending sections 15.50.040, 15.50.060, 15.50.110, and 15.50.160 of the Imperial Beach Municipal Code and adding section 15.50.180 related to floodplain management regulations.
So I'd like to entertain a motion to conduct the first reading and introduce ordinance 2019-1189 by title only, waive full reading of the ordinance, and set the matter for adoption at a subsequent meeting.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously by those present.
Okay, we're on item 3.2, the introduction and first reading ordinance adoption, California Code of Regulations, titled 24, parts 1 through 12 with appendices 2019 edition with certain amendments, additions, and deletions. City Manager Douche will give a report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Joining me is our Fire Marshal, Tom Santos. And so, that could be the case. So as you all know, every 3 years is this sort of triennial review for the California building codes as well as the fire safety codes. And so those codes speak together. So for this code update, this 2019 update that'll be effective January 1 of 20, Tom and staff had went through and done an analysis and had determined that the regulations that will be required, as a part of the California Building Code and the Fire Safety Code are really de minimis. Any of the code changes that we've done, sort of as a city from the previous one in 2016, are carried over into this one. So it's not like the developers or the builders are going to be entering into, any new specific city-specific code changes. Any of these are just going to be promulgated by the state requirements. So that's our presentation in a nutshell. Again, these are compulsory. These are, how some states don't necessarily have a state building code. Florida and California are unique because of a lot of their weather events and the different environments. Most of the country uses a uniform building code, a national building code, but the state of California has its own requirements, and so we're compelled to adopt these, and these are the ones that we utilize to ensure that buildings are built safe and are utilizing good technology. One interesting note is that the energy code on this is continuing to get better and better and better. And it's interesting that, like, when, just as a side note, because I know that everybody up on this council appreciates the high quality and the energy usage of structures, because the structures are basically little built environments, right? And they're just these little models. The buildings that are being built today are probably as efficient as some of the LEED buildings that were built when that sort of LEED certification had come out. So again, as technology comes and prices continue to go down, and we just get a better housing stock in our community. And so if there are technical questions, Tom can answer them for you. Other than that, we would recommend that you introduce the ordinance on first reading.
Madam Clerk, do you have any speaker slips?
No, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, the comment period is now closed. It's time for council discussion, if any.
Ask one quick question. You'd mentioned that the changes are minor and shouldn't catch any developers by surprise who are right in the process right now. Well, what about homeowners or the small scale people who are in the process of permitting for improvements? Will any of them be, sort of disadvantaged by?
So anybody that's in the process right now, before they're effective, sticks with the codes that are in process. So if you pulled a permit before the effective date, you are reviewed under those regulations, that the date that you made your application.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. West? No? Good? Okay. Madam Clerk, please read the title of ordinance number 2019-1190.
Ordinance number 2019-1190, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Imperial Beach, California, amending sections of chapters 15.02, 15.04, 15.06, 15.14, 15.16, 15.18, 15.20, 15.28, 15.32, 15.34, and 15.38.
I'd like to entertain a motion to conduct the first reading and ordinance, or introduce ordinance number 2019-1190 by title only, waive full reading of the ordinance, and set the matter for adoption at a subsequent meeting. Motions?
So moved.
Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously by those present.
Okay, I'd like to adjourn regular meeting and I'd like to call closed session meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
Councilmember West.
Here.
Councilmember Spriggs.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Patton.
Here.
Councilmember Aguirre and Mayor Dedina are absent.